So we ready?
Almost. Ready? David, you ready?
Yep.
All right, Kim, you want to start us off?
So Big 12 starts, and these first couple of teams, I mean, they've had some challenges. They've each have beat Minnesota, each have taken, another top Big 10 to 5. So what are you seeing this week?
I see two teams that are going to be competitive, two teams that are used to winning, even though they've lost a little bit throughout the year. I think that they're confident. I think that it is a good opener for us to go in and see what a different level looks like. I think that we are in a good place in terms of our energy, our confidence, and walking in better than we were last year at this point going into conference play.
And when you think about TCU, I mean, Melanie is the big name. What does she bring?
She brings a true outside hitter mentality. I think that she is athletic and she understands the game. I think she learned a lot when she was at Texas. I think she is by far the go-to hitter on that team. 21, McGee is the same for Baylor. So going in, our focus is on minimizing what they do. They're two great players, so they're going to get theirs, and that's okay. It's for us not to get upset when they actually score.
What are going to be some of the challenges, Rita, of this new travel process? Because it appears you're going to be spending an extra night on the road than maybe you did in the Pac-12. What have you identified as some of the challenges and maybe some of the positives of it?
I don't know that we're spending an extra night per se. It's just a matter of when we can get out. So we get back rather early on Saturday. So it's just a night there because of the time of the match. But I think that the biggest challenge will be being absent during the week more. So leaving on Tuesday, leaving in the morning. But we're trying to do everything we can to prepare for that. We'll have our breakfast here. We'll go to the airport. They'll get some study in. We'll get film in. And you just don't know what you don't know. And so we're going to make it into a more fun experience and kind of like, oh, wow, look what we get to do versus, oh, man, I can't believe we have to do that.
I want to ask you about the offices, because I didn't know that you had the old AD offices.
Yeah.
How'd that come about? And I mean, I know they were awful where you were before, but what's it been like?
I don't know that I would have said awful, but nonetheless, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, the offices have been like that right before I left. And so they were in a remodeling period when I first left. But prior to that, the coaches, the two assistants, would share the big space. And so it was a desk on one side, a desk on the other side. And then the changes made, and I was kind of bummed. I was like, oh, now I'm leaving, and, you'll actually get your own space. But nonetheless, we tried to make it as not homely, but as homey as possible. But when I had my meeting with Desiree the first time, she asked for things that we wanted or whatnot and just kind of catch her up to speed. And so I said, when you get a chance, if you can just go by and take a look at the office. I tend not to take recruits in there on purpose, but just kind of give me an idea of what you think. And then she called, I think it was like a day or so later, but she called me in the evening. So I was like, oh, wow, what did I do wrong? Not that I should think that way, but let's be honest, you kind of sit back and pause. And she said, I went by your office, I didn't touch anything, but I took a look. Oh, I think I may have a solution for you. And so then that's when she shared with me that she was going to move her office over to the academic center and that we would be able to take over the AD suite.
So you mentioned just offhand that David combined, you still were getting things organized. I didn't realize that's what it was. So how is that coming, that office?
It's wonderful. It's nice that the players will come up and hang out. We have a kitchen area, and so there are snacks in there all the time, so you should come by and have some as well. And we just open it up. We didn't tell anyone they couldn't use it anymore, even though it's now our office area. So we get a lot of interaction. Our managers come up, and they're actually able to do more for us versus than just being in the gym. But there's a space for them because we have a workspace as well.
What allowed Avery to kind of step to the forefront in that competition for the center?
Avery understands the setting a lot. Like, you don't have to tell her what to do, you just have to tell her not to do something because she tends to see things a little bit faster. She likes to go against the flow versus, setting into the grain of things just because it is what it is. But a lot of it has to do with the hitters connecting with her and putting them in a position to be comfortable and be successful as well.
Seen, I guess, a lot of freshmen that are able to come in right away and kind of take that role?
Well, yes and no. And no, because sometimes it's what the coach wants and being comfortable. I sit back and I joke with Dave. I said, if you were here, I would wonder if you would still go with Anna versus Avery based on the things that he deemed more important than possibly I think is more important. So it just depends on what the coach's philosophy is. And I remember when Panina was here her freshman year, and there was a young lady that was on the team, and the team wanted the other young lady to play versus Panina because of the comfortable, I can't even say the word, how comfortable they were with that. But then they started to understand. And so that's why for the longest it was going back and forth. You know, some of the hitters enjoyed hitting off Anna a little bit more. They were able to understand it, whereas others weren't as successful. So we statted everything in practice. And so each setter had their team hitting percentage when they played. And we kept it as equal as possible.
Carly's ability to just hit the ball down the line, what does that do for her game offensively?
Well, it makes her a threat right off the bat, you know, and if I'm a team playing against Carly, I would block a line and force her to have to score in other ways. And so that's what I told her when we recruited her. I told her that all spring. I told her that in the fall. And so it forced her to open up her game a little bit more, because why would you go away from what works if it's available to you? So the fact that she sees the game and understands the game a lot has allowed her to evolve faster with that.
And as far as your passing, you've got good numbers right now from both your outsides and from Brenna. But the serving's going to get tougher. So what are you expecting from those players?
Well, Baylor is a very good serving team, so we're expecting to be challenged right off the bat and be minimized a little bit depending on how we actually handle the situation. But today in practice, our question was, one, what was your Sunday win? But then the other was, what is the scouting report on Arizona? And I said, let's be transparent, let's be vulnerable here so that there are no surprises. And so I said, Carly, they're coming after you because you're a freshman, not necessarily because you can't pass. And I said, Jalen, if you ever see serve receive, they're coming after you as well. And I said, that's not a bad thing, but we want to understand what's going to happen. And so we spend a lot of time on serving and passing. And that's always been the thing that's most important in the game of volleyball.
You mentioned Sunday win. What is that?
Yeah, so we write a question on, meaning me, write a question on the board every day. And so I want to know what their win was on Sunday. And so in terms of what did you do for yourself? And part of our recovery and being in a good position is to make sure that we get time to do the things that we enjoy. So it could be cooking, it could be binge watching television, it could be going to church, various things. And I got the win from my life coach. It was one of the things, she was like, okay, what was your 10 for today? What was your big win? And so as I learned information from her, I implemented with the team.
I know Brenna was committed to West Virginia before she came here. What was that process like, and what did you see from her that you thought she could help you?
Well, when she was at West Virginia, and then there was a coaching change, so she was just kind of sitting there idle, and then I talked to the previous coach, I talked to her club coaches, and they said, this is a kid that can do it, and I was familiar with the team. If I'm honest, I really didn't know who she was prior to going in, but she was the glue that helped the team stay together, because that team had a ton of Division I talent on it as they were learning to pass, and so she was a gritty kid that would just get in your face and say, I got this ball. She's a gym rat, and all the things that we loved. And she was committed to coming out to visit the campus ahead of time just to put herself in a position while she was waiting to see if she was going to be able to stay at West Virginia. But it was to our game that she decided to leave.
Anything else?
When you think about where you were last season compared to where you are now, what do you think have been some of the differences for this season?
The elephant in the room, winning. Huge difference there, but our level of confidence and our ability to be together as one. So we're leaving 2 players home this weekend because of injuries, and so that's going to be hard in that sense, whereas last year it was, I wouldn't say it was easy to determine who was staying home, but it was not a lot of thought behind it based on what they were able to add to the team. So being comfortable now knowing that we're leaving them at home, but we're still in a good place, that they're still in a good place. And one of the things that we talked about today in the gym is, in the past, if a player stayed home, I thought it was a good idea to kind of give them updates. Hey, this is what we're doing, this is what's going on, because it sucks being the only people left at home. And so I asked the group in front of those two players to say, hey, what do you guys want to do? Do you want the updates? Do you want the information behind it? You know, what's going on? And they said yes. And so for me, them still being a part of everything that's going on is important, whereas last year, I thought about it, but I didn't put as much thought behind it. But because this group is so tight-knit, it was important that we made sure that we talk about that. And once again, that's just the transparency that I believe is most important.
What's the training process for the players that don't go?
Well, they'll both be rehabbing, so the actual physical training portion won't be a lot. But
Players that aren't hurt that don't go, is there a schedule for them?
well, my goal is if they're hurt, they would stay home, just because it's a long stretch without school and whatnot. So why put them through that if they don't have to be? But all other players would travel. Yes.
And Ava, what's the prognosis for her going forward? I know she had her MRI Saturday morning, but we didn't know anything.
Yeah, both players will follow up with the doctor today. Both are feeling better, so the time off is definitely helping. You know, leave it to Ava. She said, Rita, I'll be back in a week. She go, maybe two, but you know, you just don't know the answer to that question. But the goal is for us to do our job so that they don't feel like they're the reason why we're not able to succeed. All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.